Law 3, Part 2. Use smoke screens to disguise your actions. Deception is always the best strategy, but the best deceptions require a screen of smoke to distract people's attention from your real purpose. The bland exterior like the unreadable poker face is often the perfect smoke screen, hiding your intentions behind the comfortable and familiar. If you lead the sucker down a familiar path, he won't catch on when you lead him into a trap. Observance of the law. Back in the 1920s, there was an Ethiopian noble by the name of Selassie, also known as Ras Tafari. Despite his thin, ordinary and quiet demeanor, the warlords of the time began to worry about the extent of his control. They were afraid that he might eventually become their leader and thus unifying the country for the first time in decades. Lo and behold, their fears became true. In 1927, Selassie summoned the warlords to the capital, one by one as a declaration of their devotion and loyalty to him as their new leader. Most accepted, others hesitated, but eventually they caved in, except one man, the Jazmek Balka of Sidamo. Balka was a mighty warrior and didn't really respect what he considered a feeble and weak leader. Instead of getting angry, Selassie gently but sternly commanded Balka to come. The latter decided to go to Addis Ababa, but on his own terms. He would go on his pace, with an army of 10,000 men that would defend him in case something happened. They stationed 3 miles outside from the capital and waited for Selassie to come to him instead. Selassie sent messengers inviting Balka to an afternoon feast in his honor. Balka, being no sucker, smelled a trap. After all, this is how lords used to get rid of their enemies. Balka agreed to come if he can bring his personal bodyguard, 600 of his best soldiers that he specifically instructed not to drink. Surprisingly, Selassie agreed, anything to get the respected Balka to visit. He would be so grateful to receive such warriors. Selassie was extremely charming, validating, and treated the warrior as if he was in deep need of his support and cooperation. Balka remained closed and stated that his army was ordered to attack in case their leader didn't return to the camp by nightfall. Selassie acted hurt at such mistrust. At any rate, once the meals arrived, traditional music was sung, allowing only songs that praised the warrior of Sidamo. Balka started to feel like the noble is intimidated by his presence and worried that his machinations aren't working on the sharp warrior, and thus started to believe that the pattern will continue and he will be calling the shots soon. In the end of the feast, on his way to the camp, he daydreamed of his future triumphs, but much to his surprise, his army of 10,000 men disappeared like it has never existed. It was thanks to a witness that Balka learned the truth. When the warrior was in the feast, an army of Selassie secretly met Balka's army and disarmed it with baskets of gold and money. Appealing to their interests and after buying their weapons, the army shrunk only to those who refused. But in the end, peer pressure and intimidation tactics did the rest. Balka was ultimately defeated and his escape attempts failed. Eventually, he entered a monastery, relinquishing his ambitions. Interpretation. Selassie's power came from his ability to confuse and distract others, luring his victims with sweet smiles and gesture mannerisms, playing on Balka's fears and paranoias, then giving him a false sense of control. He created a smoke screen concealing his real goal. As I have mentioned before, the paranoid are the easiest to deceive. Do not underestimate the power of Tafari. He creeps like a mouse, but he has jaws like a lion. Balka of Sidamo's last words before entering the monastery. Number 1. The power of the familiar. The greatest deceivers listen more than they talk. They go undetected for long periods of time because they understand the power of predictability. The bland, the harmonious, the inconspicuous front creates a greater smokescreen than extravagant words and gestures. To a businessman, the familiar could be a business deal. To a leader, it might be servitude. Envelop people in what they are used to, and their suspicions evaporate. The pattern is a further play on predictability. Through creating a sequence of actions, seducing the target into believing that future actions will follow in the same manner. This trick is useful when dealing with intuitive people, since they are the most capable of reading patterns. Their power lies in anticipation, so give them something to anticipate. Number 2. Use a bland facial expression. The most powerful people in history learned to conceal their plans through honing this weapon. From James Rothschild, Frank D. Roosevelt to Henry Kissinger. The latter used to exhaust the competition with a monotone voice, a bland look, and repetitive recitations of details. The moment they lose their sharp focus, he would catch them off guard with a list of bold terms. A poker manual states the following fact. While playing his hand, the good player is seldom an actor. Instead, he practices a bland behavior that minimizes readable patterns, frustrates and confuses opponents, permits greater concentration. Number 3. Blend with those around you. The seamless blend. People naturally mistake appearances for reality. By appearing to belong to the group taking on their colors, you appear trustworthy. Soviets were excellent spies because they learned to perfectly fit the desired image of the group. Just like a wolf in sheep's clothing, they would dull their brilliance in tongues to pass as a normal docile lamb. Not everyone is capable of such deceit because it requires a form of humility and patience. Number 4. The noble gesture. Selective generosity is dangerous. We've talked about it before and we will further dissect it in a future law. Reversal. No amount of diversion tactics or smoke screens will work if you have unfortunately created a reputation for deception. That's why reputation is the foundation of power. However, it's far better to work with what you have for the moment. As you get older, some people will eventually pick on some of your tricks. And feigning naivete at all times can make you appear hypocritical. You can use your established reputation to terrify the competition or appear as an honest rogue, and people will appreciate that rare frankness. The Silaces of the world are successful because they use but not abuse cunning. I'll make a video about this later. This video is dedicated to my subscriber Eva. Request: if you have made it until the end of the video, leave a yes in the comment section. Stay sharp and see you in the next video.